Rural rental real estate will make you more financially free sooner than almost any other real estate investment. If you're in places like San Diego where I live in, if you want to invest in real estate, it could cost maybe about like 400 to $1 million to afford a normal single family rental home here. And on Airbnb, we've had a couple of friends who actually run places here, and it's just so much more expensive. So they'll make about maybe $100,000 every single year from a home that costs maybe $1 million, and you have to put 20% down plus all the furniture to actually close it and make sure it's like a top performing Airbnb. You could say you're pretty much out of the bat like potentially $300,000. So for the down payment, for the licensing, holding costs, like things that you don't expect, like permitting, plus the design fee, getting the furniture in there, assembling the furniture, and then of course like you still have to have the uphill battle of actually managing guests in California, because for some reason all the Airbnbs that we work on or the homes that I've seen in California are so much more maintenance than the ones in the East Coast. So the reason why I like rural Airbnbs is because they come at a fourth the cost. So maybe $200,000, $300,000, and you'll put 10% down because you'll use them as vacation home loans. And of course, you could do that in San Diego too. But you have to have a much higher paying job. So for me, as a pharmacist prior, I was making around $170,000 every single year. I was only pre-qualified for about like $450,000, which is in my my eyes is kind of crazy, because when I got into pharmacy 15 years ago, I started my undergrad in I think 2009, and then in pharmacy school 2013, and I graduated in 2017. I did not expect that I would have trouble owning a home. Like everyone told me, yeah, doctors, pharmacists, they make good money, and even at the time they're saying it's probably like one of the most like in-demand jobs, and it's going to pay well. But what I didn't realize is that even at $170,000, you're going to lose pretty much half of that to taxes and investments. If you don't believe me, just go to ChatGPT or just look up like what taxes are in California. And if you want to invest into like your 401k or buy health insurance, that's an extra like maybe 10% coming out of your pocket. So keep that in mind. People walking behind me. So yeah, even though it sounds glamorous, $170,000, you're really keeping pretty much less than $100,000 every single year. And I'm pretty frugal. Like I used to eat PB&Js, and the way I was actually able to afford my first home was actually just working at Walmart, eating PB&Js in the break room, eating top ramen, eating at home, living with my parents. Like I didn't really go out, and that's how I saved up like $50,000 to $75,000 like my first year and a half. It's just saving as much money as I can, so I don't have to keep on like working every single time or working 40 hours every single week to go and survive. And it just sounded like kind of miserable to me, to be honest, because parents were smart enough to invest in real estate and do a really good job. Yeah, they are kind of like one of my big inspirations. So they used to buy property in California, much more expensive. Ended up selling a bunch and doing 1031 exchanges back to places like South Carolina, where homes were much more affordable. You could buy a place for like $20,000 to $100,000, and you could probably charge like $1,500 in rent for these places, $1,000, and they would pretty much cash flow day one. So it was an obvious choice. Nowadays, it's much more difficult to go ahead and do that because property taxes are higher, insurance is higher, home costs are overall higher, and the rents haven't like gone as high. So my strategy now in this day and age, knowing that jobs are still doing all right, people still have a lot of money to buy homes, fixed rate loans are keeping real estate high, inventory is so low, I don't think real estate's going to crash anytime soon. And because that's officially my bet, and I could be wrong, obviously, I am going to keep on buying cash flowing real estate, because again, I know that as long as I'm buying cash flowing Airbnbs like towards the East Coast, where I'm spending maybe like $50,000 to as low as $15,000 to actually own these Airbnbs that will cash flow $3,000 to $5,000 every single month, I'm really relatively protected. So even if I'm wrong on the off chance that like my estimations or predictions are off, I'll still be cash flowing $3,000 to $5,000 even during a housing market crash. Like say my $200,000 property goes down by 30%, worst case scenario, and now it's only worth $120,000. I'll just hold it through, and I know that properties go up by 4% on an average annual basis, and I'll be stoked that I held it for 30 years, because we in America are lucky to have the option of buying homes with 30-year fixed rate loans. And with those fixed rate loans comes the option of having principal pay down. So every time you make a payment, it's also going to pay down a little bit of your principal, and at the end of 30 years, even if it's worth a little bit less, because it's cash flowing, I'm happy to just keep on holding these properties. So I'm hoping, obviously I'm betting, and I think that the real estate's going to go up. And everything's market specific, so you could be like, oh yeah, in San Diego it goes up by 4%. In West Virginia it goes up by 4%. But maybe later in 20 years it might start stagnating or it might come down in price. In either places, we just don't know. But overall, if I'm spending less money, making about the same amount of money for investing a fourth of the price from San Diego to West Virginia or South Carolina or Florida or Kentucky, wherever I decide to buy, I can retire much faster. So I don't have to spend $300,000 to keep an extra $5,000 in my pocket every single month. And honestly, I think that's why rural real estate's the best way to do it.